Hello and welcome. It is Kristin from Life of Crafting, and I like to do a series when I'm trying to use up scraps in my craft room. And I wouldn't necessarily say that this is scraps, but these were a design that Nicole Spohr had done, and it was like a gift box. And I did a video on this previously and talked about making these using this honeybee dies, apron die set. And, you know, they were great. I made, oh Lord, probably like 3 dozen of these. And I still have the one that was my original one, which I believe is this, was my concept one. And then I had a half a dozen left. So I'm on a mission in this particular video that I am going to make these into either a tag or a card. My guess is probably going to be a card. I'm intending that I'll just cut these off here. I know I'm wasting, but I gave these to everybody this past Christmas season. I went to a local bakery that does like the sugar cookies, and they decorate them up with the royal icing, really cute. So I had stuck, I believe it was like 2 of them in here, and a gift card, and had a ribbon, I believe, up here, and I tied, like, you know, the knots in it. It was really cute, and it was just my way, you know, to give back to like my UPS driver and things like that, as well as family and friends. So pretty much anybody that I could have given one of these to, I have. So now, like I said, I have the, what is it, 7 of them. I did use up all the paper from this candy. This was, I believe, called Candy Cane Lane as well. I'm in the middle of, I just finished several parts to the one from Prima Marketing and Frank Garcia. So I don't know if I'm thinking Candy Cane Lane or the brain. I don't know. I believe this was a Candy Cane Lane as well from Stamping Up. But I know I used up all of the paper making these, which is another reason why I went with however many it was, like 36 or something, because I was determined to use all of that up. So I'm gonna try to find, I think, a red paper with this because this paper is, other than these 2 in the end, this paper is very busy. So I don't want to, you know, draw away from the cuteness of what the apron is. But for me, there's not, I'm thinking, a lot that has to be done, because there's sentiment already on this pocket and a lot of decoration. I will need to come up with something for the collar or neckline, whatever strap you want to call it, what I forget what that's called on the apron. So I will come back when I have one of my cards, my concept cards done, and I'll be back. Just cut this open, and I'm now forgetting there is inside what was the tag. That's the oven mitt, so I will be using that on one of mine. But I'm wondering, you know, it's a shame because I'm gonna have paper scraps from this back, and I'm wondering if I should be using that to come up with something else. So this series may get more involved than I thought it was. We'll have to see. I'm back, and I realized after I cut all these down, and I started to get my, you know, regular A2, the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 out, that these really are not going to do too well on this. I mean, it literally takes up the whole, and I should have realized that it was going to take up the whole front of the card, because I remember when I die cut these, that they took like 7 inches across my 12 by 12 paper. So I wasn't able to get, like, you know, 2 and 2. So I should have realized they were going to be much larger. I mean, this is finished, and this is like 3 and like 3 1/4 by almost 5. So, you know, I could do them on that. I haven't totally written that off, but I do know I bought a bunch of things when Hobby Lobby just did this reduction sale that was like the end of August. No, maybe the end of July in August, because I remember when I took my son to Tampa for college, I was trying to get one more pack because I was doing stuff down there and their store wasn't reduced yet. But anyway, when I go through, most of what I got was envelopes. And the 5x7s, I like to get the card and the card base and the envelopes because I don't know if you can tell, like the weights just don't match. I mean, they're close enough, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to get that hung up. But, you know, if I can get them already pre-cut, especially because, like I said, the 5x7 cards, I don't do much of in the way of, you know, of actually making cards in that size. And it's going to be difficult because, well, you know, this will be cute. I can get that on there. But I was thinking about using a cover plate die that I had, and it's diagonal stripes, and it's not going to work because it's sized to fit this, and you know, I need a larger layer on this than that. So I'm having a couple other ideas of what I want to do on this, and I'll be back when this is done. I don't know if you're like me, but I've somehow inherited different paper packs and such from people that I don't even know. Like I said, I think gremlins bring back as well as take. Somehow I've gotten this Heartfelt Creations. This was a sparkling poinsettia collection. No idea like what year it was made. No, nothing that I can say of any indication. So this has a lot of beautiful, you know, cut apart things to use for borders. Like I said, I have no idea. I have some friends that, you know, when they do stuff, they'll leave things for me. I don't believe that was that. I think this may have shown up with like one of my friends that was doing like a craft room clean out. Just wanted to get rid of stuff and decided to leave it. So I'm wondering if I can use like sections like this, incorporate them somehow into my card. Now I am doing a 5x7, so the 6x6 section isn't going to do well. But I'm thinking that, you know, maybe I can do part of it and then bring in some red to kind of tie it together. This paper pack does have more of a burgundy background to it. Like I said, I'm just looking like, is there a way I could just clear this stuff out? This was one I was thinking of, again, to just kind of use as a layer to give me something behind it that's a little bit more discreet and gets it out of here. And I'm gonna, you know, probably get some Oxide inks out and, you know, age it quite a bit. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to try one of these and we'll see where this goes. No harm, no foul, right? I mean, the cut aparts are pretty, but like I said, this has been well loved from wherever I got it, and here we are. So let me get something together and I'll be back. So here we are, and I'm finished with these. I was wrong. It was the Mama Elephant apron treat bag that I made these with. I couldn't remember. And I also had to use this Mama Elephant basic set because of the parts that were in here were what were used on the rolling pin. Like I said, I made these pretty close to what Nicole Spore did. I don't remember what she had for the gingerbread. Mine is the Lawn Fawn Gingerbread Friends. Really thought this came out cute, so I highly recommend that. And I was having a tough time. The red just seems so bright and just so kind of flat. So I did use some Walnut Stain Distressed Oxide ink around the edges of it. And I used this Greetery Sweet Treats because it just needed something else to kind of pull it in. I had the apron, as you saw before, and that, but it was like, what else did it need? So I remember making a card, and you can find that like way back in my beginning, using this Treats die, and I really liked it. The chocolates I did on a brown paper, and then I used the walnut stain over top of it, and it is a layer die. And then I used this, it's like a chocolate shavings kind of thing I got off of Etsy. They were selling something similar to this, but they were out of it when I bought this, and I just found mine on Etsy. The Oxide ink right now, this hasn't dried, is kind of changing some of my glue, but it'll all dry and be fine once the glue dries. That's why I have them laid out like this. The background of this, you do cut out like the solid circle in the back, and then when you cut this out, the stars there. I had a brush with yellow ink still in it, so I don't know what the yellow was, but it is a bright yellow. And then I just used, this is a discontinued, it was called like ice glitter from Stampin' Up, I think. I don't even have a number. This was a while ago, and it's clear, which I like. It doesn't have like, it really looks like sugar when it dries. So my fingers are so inky from doing all this. Oh, the ribbon, I had like a little bit left on this roll. I'm assuming it came from Michael's. No, it says Hobby Lobby. Okay. Like I said, I had just enough to do these, and I was so happy because, like I said, I wanted to just use that up. That is gone. The cookie part of these was the antique linen distress oxide. I learned that from the Greetery. Some of these do have like a darker, and I know it was, I was doing the brushing over top of the darker color, and it was picking up the color from the paper that had been used previously with the darker color on it. So you can see where like the difference comes in and how you do that. So I just say that for you to beware. My little pieces are coming off. The candies I've been using a lot lately, I have them out. I mentioned before, I do trees. I've heard other people mention them where you know, you get yourself something to kind of, you know, put out for the season. I kind of do mine according to the paper pack, and I just had this out previous, and it had all the candies and stuff in it, and I've just left it here. And they're just Starburst candies and, yeah, Starburst, and the little candy canes that I've got off of Etsy. So I just pulled them out. I felt like they were, you know, something else to just kind of add. So these cards are pretty well done. I do still have, I had to use one of these because I needed 2 mittens. So you're looking, I have 2 of that pattern, 3 of these, and 1 of this. So before I completely wrap up this series with this, I'm gonna do something with these. Don't get too excited. I think it's just gonna be something very basic, but you know, why waste the paper? So I am only gonna be able to use pretty much this little bit of the inside, because at least one of the sides has a seam on it, a glue seam. So we'll see. You know, I do have these back sides, and I like pretty much all of them. I'm not sure too much about that one, but plenty to work with here. So I will be back. Hello, I'm back. So these are the cards I'm making with that spare paper that was on the back of those Apron gift box, Apron die things, whatever they were. I don't even remember now. Yeah, it's taken me a day or so to get this together. I have had in my stash now for a while, I'm gonna say over a year. I tried to find if these were knockoffs. I know they came from China, and I never did find. So if these are, I apologize. I would be loving to know where they knocked them off from, because I would rather buy them from the actual manufacturer. But like I said, I didn't see anybody with anything even close to these. So having said all that, like I said, I bought these about a year ago, and these were great because I would go for a day with my couple of friends, and we would do one of those like all-day events. And you know, it's a lot if you've ever done those events where you try to figure out what you're going to do for, because it's only one day. Usually get there around 9 in the morning, and some of them were ending around 5, and some of them were ending around 10. But you know, how much can you realistically do? So for me, I left all these dies still connected, and every one of them fit on a regular, you know, card front piece of paper, the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So what I would do is I would just cut various ones and then just take my Copic markers with me. And it was nice because I could just sit there and color and talk with my friends, and I didn't have that stress of like, did I bring what I need? And, you know, did I follow the instructions right? Whatever it was, you know, I didn't have to do all that. I just sat and colored. So I did follow the original paper, not paper, the diagram of what they were showing in the listing, and I will put the listing down below. I did get these all off of eBay. And then I just made notes of all my Copic markers and what they were for, so that, you know, I can easily reference them in the future again to make these. So I made one for each one, and that was going to be the one that was staying in the front. And then as I've made extras, like this one has 2 of them in there. So when I started to put this together, I thought to myself, you know, I just wanted to do the 4 sections because I knew the paper. I think when I cut it down, it was like 3 1/4 by 3 1/2. It was realistically the size of what I could get, cutting off the weird edges and stuff. And I just made my red background paper a 1/4 inch wider. So for the red base, it was 3 1/2 by 4, so that I could have a little bit of the red showing through. It was kind of hard because I wanted the red and the white to stay with the theme of, you know, the candy and stuff, but I don't know, it just was not like, I really did age this paper down. It just, the brightness of it just looked really boring. I don't know how else to say it. So I'm going to put a couple of these things together for you. I'm not coloring on this one. If you do think you'd like to see the coloring, leave me some comments below, and then I'll see about doing some videos in the future. Maybe I'll do like a video for coloring each one of these separately. Again, I am like a basic person, like in coloring. I am not the best. I can follow instructions well, but I usually can't. I'm not creative. But I was really happy with how these came out. So if you want that, please leave comments and I'll get to that. So I've got 2 of these I've left undone because the first thing I did have after that was I used this penny black. It's a Starburst and it's like a border die. And when it cuts out, I was only using 5 of the 7 candies on the bottom. I cut 2 of them off, and I used just some scrap paper, and this is what you get when it comes off. And I left this on the board because you get all these little pieces. So if you think you're going to paper piece, honestly, this is what you're going to be paper piecing back in if you wanted to do the white in a different color. I didn't choose to want to go that route. So this is what you get. And so I'm assuming, like, if you wanted to, you could probably cut like that into like the paper, you know, like if that was there, I could have cut it in and then just backed it up. But I chose to punch all of these out, and then I used a 3/4 inch circle punch, and I just put glue on the back of each one of these little, there's like 6 little swirls, and I just put the white on the back. And to me, you know, if it didn't line up exactly, you could just trim it off. But for the most part, these were lining up very, very well. And like I said, I chose to cut off 5. I know it doesn't go all the way across, but I felt like if I didn't, it was going to look kind of weird because I would have gotten like half a candy. And with me like backing this up with these, it was going to look really strange in my opinion. So that's why I just kind of centered it, and I don't think you really notice. And then you could just cut these kind of like in a rounded. Now this would be cute is if you wanted the candies for, you know, you just needed a candy for something. This would be something too, like you could save, I guess, the ones you cut off. I personally, like I said, really, I couldn't be bothered. So I trimmed off some of the white again because I didn't get them perfectly lined, and honestly they start moving and stuff as you're working. I felt like if I went with a smaller circle punch that they didn't fully cover the openings up. So this is why I use this one. I did feel like the white was a little too bright. So I do have my blending brush. I used Vintage Photo Distress Ink from Tim Holtz. I didn't choose to go with the Oxide, I just used the regular. And I just went a little bit over. It's not terribly antiqued, but it's enough to just lighten that white up a little bit, or darken it up a little bit so you don't get it. And then I put it away already. This was a Lily of the Valley tag die. They're an Etsy shop, and it's only like during this time of the year that they put their polymer out. Otherwise, they're just doing digital stamps. And truthfully, I'm just not... I have an online business that I work with my husband, and for me, it's enough being on that computer all day. I don't want to have to use my... I think that's why I've got a Cricut that I've never used as well. I have a Cricut Air and I've never used it. And I think that's why too, because it's like I just don't want to have to sit there and figure that out after I've been at a computer all day working. So the last one I've left, I didn't do either because I was going to show you how I did this. And I pray that this works and I don't mess this up. So I just triple back this. I folded like about, I don't know, about 8 inches and 10 inches in length, maybe a foot. Give yourself extra if you want. And then I tripled it back. So now I've got that. Those 3 strands I'm working with. You could, if you wanted to, you could probably cut them. I didn't feel like I needed to. And then I just tied my regular bow like I normally would. You know, got everything as straight as I needed to. Your one bow is going to be, that one loop is still going to be there, but you can tell, to me anyway, because it's a much longer one. And then I just trim them all off so they're even. And that's how I got the triple bow, except my scissors don't want to cut today because they're on holiday. So that was it. And then I'll glue that on once I finish that. So that is how I did. And this was just, this is a Hobby Lobby trim. And it's nice because it's a thicker one. I have a thinner one that I would say is like what you'd see like with bakery boxes. But this is like a thicker one, and it's 20 yards, and you know you get this stuff like half off on sale. So that's to me was a good bargain. So I think I hit everything on this card. Yeah, I guess I did. So I'd appreciate a thumbs up if you liked this and got some inspiration. I do need to add, I did add some of the Polymore candies on it just to give it a little bit of a trim. So I hope you get some inspiration. This should be the end of this Stampin' Up! And getting lane paper. I thought I was done with it before, but it came back in the way of more stash and excess in my home that I wanted to get rid of. So here we are. But I pray this is the end of it. If not, I think I'm just throwing it out. But anyway, appreciate a thumbs up if you got some inspiration out of this. Would love if you subscribe down below. That would help build my channel. And it would also, for you, put into your feed when I add some new videos, which I am trying to get to at least twice a week. I have been successful sometimes getting up to 3, but at least twice a week we're getting videos up. So appreciate your time and watching, and I'll catch you the next time. Bye.